On the snowy peaks of Mount Kailash, a strange quiet had settled. It was a silence unlike any other. This was not the peaceful silence of meditation. It was a heavy, deep silence that seemed to swallow all sound. Lord Shiva, the eternal ascetic, had gone quiet. His eyes were closed. His body was still like a mountain, but his usual aura of calm energy was missing. He wasn't speaking, not to his beloved Parvati, who sat beside him, her heart filled with a strange unease, not to his Ganas, the loyal attendants who guarded his sacred home. It was as if the very source of cosmic sound, the primal Om, had paused. The universe held its breath, waiting. The silence did not stay confined to the icy slopes of Kailash. It began to seep down, spreading through the three worlds like a creeping shadow. In the heavens, the gods grew anxious. Indra, the king of the Devas, felt his throne tremble, not from an attack, but from this profound stillness. The celestial musicians found their instruments unable to produce a single note. The cosmic dancers felt their feet grow heavy, their movements losing their grace. The very fabric of creation, which danced to the rhythm of Shiva's Damaru, began to feel frayed and uncertain. The absence of his voice was a void that nothing could fill. Down in the netherworlds, the Asuras felt this change too, but for them, it was a flicker of dark hope. They did not understand its cause, but they sensed a shift in power. A silent god was a vulnerable god, they whispered amongst themselves. In their dark realms, plans began to form, schemes were hatched in hushed tones, and a wicked anticipation grew. The balance of the universe, so carefully maintained, was teetering on the edge. The sun seemed a little dimmer, the rivers flowed a little slower, and a deep, unspoken question hung in the air across all realms. Why was Mahadev silent? Back on Kailash, Goddess Parvati's heart ached with a love that was now mixed with a profound worry. She tried to speak to him, her voice a gentle melody against the stark silence. She placed her hand on his, hoping to feel a response, a flicker of life, but he remained utterly still. It was a silence that felt deeper than any meditation she had ever witnessed. It was a wall between them, and she could feel the coldness of its stone. Her love for him was a vast ocean, and this silence was a storm brewing in its depths, threatening to drown everything in its path. She knew she could not simply wait. She had to find the reason. Days turned into nights, and the silence on Kailash only deepened. Parvati's worry grew into a firm resolve. She could not bear to see her lord, the life of the universe, so withdrawn and still. She looked at his face, serene yet distant, and made a promise to herself. She would journey through the cosmos if she had to. She would seek out every wise being, every ancient sage, every form of Shiva himself to understand this mystery. Her love was not passive, it was a force of nature. It was this love that now set her on a path, a pilgrimage to find the voice of her beloved Mahadev. She tied her hair, her eyes reflecting a fiery determination, and stepped away from the silent peak. Her first stop was the abode of the great sages, the Saptarishis. These 7 sages held the wisdom of ages, their minds like libraries of cosmic knowledge. She approached them with respect, her voice heavy with the weight of her quest. "Oh, wise ones," she pleaded, "you read the stars and understand the breath of the universe. Tell me, why has my lord fallen silent?" The sages looked at each other, their faces grim. They spoke of cosmic cycles, of the universe needing a moment of pause before a great change. They said, "Shiva's silence is a seed. What it will grow into, only he knows. Look for the answer not in the stars, but in the heart of devotion." Following their cryptic advice, Parvati then sought out the greatest yogis, the ones who had spent lifetimes meditating on Shiva. She found them in hidden caves and on remote riverbanks, their bodies lean from penance, but their spirits bright. They listened to her story, their eyes filled with compassion. An old yogi, his skin like wrinkled parchment, spoke softly. "Mother," he said, "Shiva is not just a god in Kailash. He is the consciousness within every living being. Perhaps he is listening to a sound that no one else can hear. His silence might be a conversation with the soul of the universe itself. You must seek his most primal forms. These encounters, while not providing a clear answer, gave Parvati small pieces of a larger puzzle. The sages spoke of a seed of change. The yogis spoke of listening to a deeper sound. Each clue pushed her forward, her hope a small, flickering lamp in the vast darkness of the unknown. Her journey was not just a physical one across lands and skies. It was a journey inward. She was not just searching for Shiva, she was also discovering the depths of her own devotion and strength. The path was lonely, and the silence from Kailash echoed in her heart, but she did not falter. Her love was her guide. Parvati's quest then led her to the fierce and formidable forms of her lord. She journeyed to a desolate cremation ground, the air thick with smoke and the scent of ash. There she sought Bhairava, the terrifying form of Shiva who wanders such places. He was surrounded by spirits, his laughter echoing with a wild, untamed power. Parvati stood before him, unafraid. "Tell me, O fierce one," she asked, "you who understand destruction and the cycles of life and death, why is the benevolent Shiva silent?" Bhairava's fiery eyes softened. He replied, "Silence precedes the greatest storm. It is the gathering of energy before it is unleashed. He is absorbing all the pain, all the suffering of the world into his being. The silence is his penance." From the grounds of destruction, she traveled to a place of pure creation. She sought out Ardhanarishvara, the form where Shiva and Shakti are united as one, half male and half female. This form represented the perfect balance of the universe. As she stood before this divine union, she felt a sense of completeness, yet the silence of her other half persisted. She asked, "How can there be balance when half of the whole is silent? How can creation sing when its rhythm is gone?" The Ardhanarishvara form simply smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. A voice that was both male and female whispered, "When one half becomes silent, the other half must find its own voice, its own strength." The silence is a test, a preparation. Her journey continued, each meeting adding another layer to the mystery. She met Virabhadra, the warrior form born of Shiva's rage, who told her that silence was a weapon far more powerful than any sword. It could conquer hearts and minds without a single blow. She met Nataraja, the cosmic dancer, who stood frozen in his pose. Through his stillness, he conveyed that even in absolute stillness, there is a dance, a vibration of immense power waiting to be released. Every form she met gave her a different perspective, a different piece of the truth, but the complete picture still eluded her. The suspense was building, not just for her, but for the entire cosmos. Parvati began to understand that the answer was not simple. Shiva's silence was not an absence. It was a presence of something immense. It was the penance of Bhairava, the test of Ardhanarishvara, the weapon of Virabhadra, and the stillness of Nataraja all combined. He was absorbing the world's pain, testing the strength of his other half, and gathering energy for a purpose she could not yet see. The puzzle was almost complete, but the final, most important piece was still missing. What was this great purpose? What would happen when he finally broke his silence? The fate of everything hung on that single, impending moment. With all the clues gathered in her heart, Parvati finally returned to Kailash. She was no longer just a worried wife. She was Shakti, the primordial energy, who had rediscovered her own immense power through her journey. She walked with a newfound confidence and understanding. She sat before the silent Mahadev, not with questions, but with the quiet strength of knowing. She realized the truth. Shiva had absorbed all the negativity, the pain, and the impurities of the ages into himself. His silence was a deep cosmic meditation to purify the universe, to cleanse its soul so it could be reborn. He had taken the poison of the world upon himself, and his silence was the process of digesting it. She placed her hand on his heart, and this time she did not plead. She poured all her love, all the strength she had found, all the devotion of the universe into that single touch. She became the soothing balm for his cosmic pain. It was the final piece of the puzzle. His penance was complete only when met with her absolute, unconditional love. A faint tremor ran through his still form. The snow on the peaks of Kailash shivered. The gods in heaven and the demons in the netherworld felt a shift, a powerful vibration that signaled the end of the great silence. The universe held its breath one last time. Slowly, ever so slowly, Lord Shiva's eyes opened. They were not filled with destruction, but with a deep, profound love and compassion. He looked at Parvati, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, he spoke. His voice was not a thunderous roar, but a gentle whisper that resonated through every particle of existence. "Devi," he said, his voice filled with an ancient love. That single word was enough. It was the sound of renewal. It was the rain after a long drought. It was the first note of a new cosmic song. The universe did not end. It was cleansed, refreshed, and ready for a new beginning. The impact of that first word was immense. The anxiety of the gods turned into joyous celebration. The dark hopes of the asuras dissolved into dust. The rivers began to flow with renewed vigor. The flowers bloomed with brighter colors, and a wave of peace and tranquility washed over all three worlds. Shiva's silence had not been for destruction, but for a grand renewal. He had shown the universe that sometimes the most profound changes begin not with a loud bang, but with a deep, meaningful silence. And in breaking that silence, he had not brought an end, but the promise of a beautiful new dawn, born from love and sacrifice.